If you've ever fallen in love with a fictional duke, a fae prince, a pirate king, a vampire, or a morally gray warlord, you're in the right place. Welcome to Historic Hearts Club, the podcast that dives into the fantastical world of historical romance and romantasy with your hosts Marisa Coulter and Mary Pope. The spoilers will be spilt and the tea piping hot as we unpack this week's spicy read. This week's read was chosen by me, and we are going to be talking about The Court of the Vampire Queen by Katee Robert. But before we dive into that, how are you doing, Marisa? How has your weekend been?
The sun is shining, so I can't complain. I am, excuse me, just coming off of a cold, so been a little under the weather this week. It's been a busy one as well, but no, my weekend has been great, and honestly, it was made 10 times better because I entered into the world of traders.
Oh my God, tell me more. I haven't seen it, but I've been hearing about it.
So I'm going to be completely transparent. When I first saw the trailer for Traders, I thought that it looked like the dumbest show I've ever seen. And then flash forward a couple of years to now,
I love your
there's this.
honesty.
Thank you, thank you. I want to be honest with everyone here. Um, this podcast that I follow, pop culture podcast called The Morning Toast, has been doing recaps about this season of Traders each week. And the way the girls have been describing it, I'm like, okay, I have to give this a chance. When I tell you that my personality has changed because of this show and it has a chokehold that I don't think will ever be released on me, I'm not even exaggerating. I can't say enough good things about this show. It brings together all of these different celebrities, reality stars, game show stars, throws them into this Scotland castle. It's hosted by Alan Cumming, so you already know it's going to be entertaining. And
Mm-hmm.
basically, we have our traders and we have our faithfuls, and it's just like a week and a half that they're spending together, but in that short time, they have to try to suss out who the traders are, and there's so much backstabbing, so much conniving. I can't say enough good things.
Do you think that you could cut it as a traitor?
It's funny that you ask that because my
You've
husband
already
and
thought about it, obviously.
my husband and I spent quite a while yesterday talking about like who we'd want to be, where we would fit into the show. And in fact, Alan Cumming announced that they will be casting for a regular person version of Traders.
Oh my God.
And there's
I
an
think we know what
ounce
you
in
need to
me.
do.
There's a small part of me that's like, what if? Like what would be the harm in, putting my hat in the ring for that? Not that I'd get chosen, but I
Okay, well,
just
that's not the energy we need to go into 2026 with. What if you did
that's
get
true.
chosen? Honestly,
That's true.
just a week in a castle in Scotland, that's a win. And if you
I
happen to
mean,
win the game show, incredible.
I know, I know. So I think I need to look a little further into that, but that's pretty much taken up my entire weekend. I have no regrets. It's been fantastic. And yeah, I just can't say enough good things. But Mary, I want to hear about you. How was your night? How was your weekend? What's new?
Well, last night I went out in West Hollywood for the first time ever. I've like been there during the day. It's adorable. And I went to this famous gay bar called the Abbey with some of my friends. I Y'all, I am too old for a club, but it was a vibe. The outfits were incredible. Obviously, there were like go-go dancers on all the tables, like barely wearing any clothes. I love that. It was an
Ugh,
incredible vibe. I
the
was drinking
best.
vodka cranberries, which I don't think I've had in maybe 15 years, but my
Stop,
friend,
Mary. Are you 21 again?
okay, so I was out with my friends. We're all in our 30s, but one of my friends gives energy as if they're like 26, and that's what they wanted
Mm.
to drink. And I was like, that actually kind of sounds good. And so I enjoyed it. Like, I might be coming back around to vodka cranberries, guys.
You know what? The world is such a circle, and quite frankly,
It
I'm
is.
enjoying
Trends come
this.
back around.
I love that for you. I'm not gonna lie.
Thanks. Me too. Me too. Obviously, I still have a little bit of like staying out until 1:30 in the morning voice today, so I apologize to everyone, but I really want to get into this book. And so I'm going to power through and we are going to talk about it. And I wish that I got like that sexy voice. So when you've like stayed up really late and you wake up and your like voice is kind of like low and gravelly, but unfortunately that didn't happen today. So you just get my normal voice with like me clearing my throat a little bit every now and then. So
That's okay. We'll take you as you are, Mary, any day, any time of the week.
thank you. I feel so loved. All right, let's get into it. Before we get started, there's a couple trigger warnings I want to give for this book. There's a lot of blood play. There's physical violence and murder throughout the book, and certainly kind of condensed towards the end. And then there's also emotional abuse and parental manipulation. So just want to give a heads up for anyone. If those are themes that are triggering or upsetting to you, you might not want to listen to this episode, or you might want to steer clear of actually reading the book. But I think that there was a lot of fun, juicy pieces in the book that I'm excited to talk about. I do want to say, like, this book, The Court of the Vampire Queen, is actually a trio of novellas, and they're known as the Bloodline Vampire series. I would recommend reading all three, or just reading like this Court of the Vampire Queen, just kind of combines them all into one book, because the plot is a little slow in book 1, but it really develops in book 3. Those 3 books are titled Sacrifice, Heir, and Queen in that order. If you just want to kind of test out the waters and read just one of them, or if maybe, some of the triggers that are more prevalent in book 3 are something that upsets you, maybe you could still enjoy Sacrifice or Heir without getting all the way to Queen. So just wanted to preface that. I don't know, Marisa, if you had a thought of if you would have rather just read one of them, or if you also would recommend reading all 3.
Oh, no. These books need to be read together. And if you can't do that, that's totally understandable. It is what it is. I will say it's an extremely quick read, even though it's split into 3 books. I think on Kindle, I want to say it was like in the 400-ish page range altogether. So you're really not sacrificing much. Like, it's pretty much standard novel length for a romance read if you read all 3 together. And when I tell you, when you get to the end of part 1, book 1, you're not going to want to put it down anyway. And the same goes for the end of book 2. So if you can read them together, read them together.
Yes, I would agree. I also would say this book might have been the filthiest book that I have ever read in my entire life. I was shook, and it starts off hot just in chapter 1. Like, guys, we have an orgasm in chapter 1. Like, wow, okay. And that was really just a taste of what was coming, because it was kind of nonstop. I don't know what you thought about that.
Mary, when I tell you that I'm no prude, I enjoy some steam, right, in my books.
Mm-hmm.
I'll read them without, but I lean on the side of steam. This was by far the most filthy book I have ever read. And I mean that respectfully, because
Mm-hmm.
even though it was super filthy, I still loved the books, and I really enjoyed the
Mm-hmm.
plot, if I'm being honest, too. And yes, there were some chapters where we might have lost the plot a little bit because we're focused on the film. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
by and large, it was a really good storyline. I actually enjoyed it, and it didn't, even though there was a lot of filth, I don't feel like it took away from like the book for me. It wasn't too distracting, because I know you and I actually, in one of our other book clubs, have read a reverse harem book that was also very filthy. That's another thing. Sorry, lots of spoilers coming your way, guys, but this is in fact a reverse harem read. So be prepared. If you're into only stories about monogamy, no sharing, one partner, this might not be the choice for you unless you have an open mind. But um, it's good. It's got the steam.
It certainly does. And yes, agree. I also really enjoyed the plot, really built, I think, in book three. And I appreciated that. There's quite kind of character development for Mina, who's our female main character. Um, and it is, yes, it's a reverse harem. It's it's a polycule. So they're all lovers all around, which I enjoyed a lot. Um, some of the other kind of tropes that I noticed were enemies to lovers between some of them, but then the love story, when it really started to build, was so endearing between Mina and Malachi, who's kind of our main male character. There are obviously, Wolf and Rylan, who are other main male characters, but I think they're kind of supporting. I think that Mina and
Mm-hmm.
Malachi are kind of like the main love story. Um, and I thought it was really sweet. Like, he is this powerful vampire who's like really just a lover boy, you know? He's just a lover.
Loved them. In my notes as I was reading for Fable, I put like hardcore ship, Mina and Malachi forever. Don't want to see them ever apart. This man loves this woman. It is so clear. He falls so hard so fast. I just think I love books where the main male character is vulnerable and embraces their feelings, their deep feelings of love for the other character. But okay, before we go too far down the path, I do want to bring it back to just a brief plot line for anyone who's catching up or wants to be interested in this. So basically what we have here are is a vampire love story, right? So Mina, she comes to Malachi's house. Malachi is a hundreds of years old bloodline vampire. And let's be clear, there's bloodline vampires and then there's turned vampires. Bloodline vampires have special powers, skills. They're the creme de la creme, right? And bloodline vampires, there are obviously way fewer of than turned vampires. Now, Mina falls into a very distinct camp in that she's neither of those. She's a dampier. She is half bloodline vampire, half something else, which we do find out in the book what the other half is, and it adds a lot of color to this. But basically, Mina's father, who is one of the biggest bloodline vampire leaders in the world, sends Mina to Malachi, basically to kind of be a pseudo blood bank because her blood, since it's half, non-vampire, presumably like that he can feed from her. Um, so she's going there for that and also to become impregnated by him because her father wants to rule and have as much bloodline vampire magic at his fingertips as he can. And so we see that theme of pregnancy also come through the books in different
Got a
ways.
breeding kink a little bit. Yep,
There's a
yep.
little bit of a breeding kink here. But during book one, you see a lot of wavering in Mina because she is, you know, she knows that her father's intent behind her getting pregnant is to control that child and ultimately her and Malachi. And so, even though, to your point, there's this breeding kink in terms of Malachi wanting her so bad and to like claim her as his and impregnate her, there's also this back of mind reality where they're thinking, well, then what? Like Malachi's tethered to his house in book one via a blood ward, so he can't leave his house. They're really in a bind here. And so there's this question in the beginning of whether or not they will actually pursue getting pregnant.
Right. Yeah, because they're desperately the love story starts to build, right? And Mina gets connected to all of these vampires and really starts to care for Malachi. She doesn't necessarily want to hand her father that power. And also there's always hints at just how cruel and manipulative her father has been, which is really starts to be apparent really early in book one, which I think is playing a role in how Mina wants to really move forward. So there's a lot of complexity with her. And going back to Malachi being centuries and centuries old, Mina's, I think, only 24. So it's just always an interesting dynamic. I saw some meme, there's a little bit of a sidebar kind of joking about how in books like this, it's always the male vampire or main character being centuries old because that's how long it takes for them to develop and have the same emotional maturity as a 24-year-old woman. And honestly, I'm like, they're kind of equally matched, but like, took you a long time, didn't it, Malachi?
Yeah, I could totally see that. That's hilarious and also very true. But
But yeah, so it's quite a storyline. What were some of your favorite parts from the book, Marissa? Or do we want to kind of go through each of the chapters? I'd love to hear some of your favorites before we do that, though.
yeah, I did have some favorite parts. So, first and foremost, I loved when Mina and Malachi finally got together for the first time. It was just really sweet, and they have such this deep bond that just draws me in, and I really found found that heartwarming and sweet. You do have to couch that in the fact that Wolf, one of Malachi's past lovers, soon to be also Mina's lover as well, is watching the whole
Mm-hmm.
time and commentating on
Yep.
the
Yep.
experience. I think it adds a little levity to the scene, but I loved that. I also loved, well, I think it's book two. They go to a safe house because, spoiler alert, at the end of book one, they being Mina, Malachi, Wolf, and Rylan, who is also deeply connected to Malachi and Wolf over the centuries that they've been intertwined. They have and engage in what I like to call the penultimate orgasm, as to
Mm-hmm.
break the blood ward that is tethering Malachi to his house. And I love I, I do like this scene, but ultimately I like that the only options to break the blood ward was either intense pain for Mina and torture, or
Which no one wants to do, obviously, and they all cared about
no
her. So
one.
they were like, we have this other option over here.
Yeah, which is just profound, unbelievable pleasure. I mean, the choices are a little skewed. Um,
I know it's a hard decision to make, you know. That was an incredible scene. Really, I mean, like
yes.
honestly outrageous, but I loved it. Yeah, and going back, like Mina was a virgin when she got to Malachi's compound, and just
Hmm.
like really quick, man, she is in it
She
with
steps in
that.
with both feet.
She sure does. And going back to your first favorite when you're kind of talking about that like cuck scene that we've got, um it's it's essentially like she is this virgin, but like not to self pleasure, just to like pleasure with um a partner. And that I enjoyed that because I think a lot of books, when they're kind of having like the prim virgin, it's kind of like, oh my God, I don't even know how to have any pleasure at all. And she wasn't like that. She was just like, oh, I've
Right.
just never been able to be touched by another person. And so that was fun. And at that point in the book, I think it's chapter 10, I'm like, oh my gosh, this book is going to be so spicy. And it only gets crazier from there.
It only gets crazier. I also love the plot line where we find out after they break the blood ward that Mina is not half human like they suppose. She's actually half seraph, which is like, I still don't fully understand and I should have
I
done more
think they're a
research on
type, I know, I think they're a type of angel, you know? So
yes,
then we've
yes,
got
they're
vampires and
literally
angels.
vampires, angels. Don't forget we bring demons in later on because
Mm-hmm.
they're thinking about breaking this bond, because the issue is that what a girl boss flex, that the biggest issue here is that through this whole love scene with Rylan, Malachi, and Wolf and Mina, because of her seraph blood, she has bonded them to her, and they can't leave a certain radius away
Mm-mm.
from her.
They get yanked back to her. Or if she just like, she can also just command them to do things. It's
Yes.
incredible. And so then you have like these three very powerful men who are like centuries old, right? And thought they had so much more power than her. And all of a sudden the scales of power have shifted and she is in total control. And they're almost just like they all love her, but it's like they're doing whatever she really wants. And like she's the one that kind of comes up with the ultimate plan, you know, in the end,
Mm-hmm.
which I love that
Agreed.
for her.
I do too. You know what other scene I really, really liked was again, it was extremely filthy, but it's when they're on the run from Mina's father. They go to a safe house in the Rocky Mountains, which I'm like, I want to see this house. Living in Denver, I'm like, where are we talking? What part of the Rockies? What city? Is this Aspen? Like
Can I go?
where are we at? Can I go? Um but I loved um how Rylan finally just accepts that this bond is not going anywhere. They're not going to break this bond that he and all the other men have with Mina. Instead, he chooses to lean into it and finally gets with all of them. They all come together for this very spicy love scene. And it's
Mm-hmm.
so profound that after they all realize that they have basically inherited some of each other's blood vampire line powers because
Because it was messy and
it
things were
was
being shared.
messy. So much sharing of so many things. But I loved that part. And I also I mean, I just kept putting myself in Mina's shoes and I was like, oh my gosh, like how cool would that be? You have this amazing encounter with these three beautiful men, powerful men, and then you end up with powers. You can like grow claws if you
Incredible.
want to, become an animal, you can set things on fire, you can raise someone's blood pressure. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I also really enjoyed how they could like sense each other's emotions. Like I think one of my favorite
mhm,
moments was that Malachi, I think it comes up in the book that he's the first one that they're talking about that he can feel her emotions. And I'm like,
mhm.
"Oh my gosh, I want a man that can do that, that you could just like feel my emotions like in your own body and then know, oh, you're upset or you're thinking about this." That is the dream.
Yeah, and like girl
Um,
clearly does not have much experience with men because she was like, I feel like I need to put my shields up so I'm not so transparent and they can't sense all my emotions. Girl, let me tell you, as someone who has a husband who cannot sense her emotions, when I say that this would mitigate a ton of fights, miscommunication, so much, stop
oh my
complaining. You have
God.
found
I
yourself.
know. I'm like, that is the most incredible power. Also, you probably don't even need a shield, really. Like, I feel like most men would just be like, oh, your emotions are on your sleeve. I didn't notice.
Right. I'm like,
Anyways, like that was incredible to me.
yes.
Also, this is just like a silly thing, but there was a moment in the book where she made fun of Malachi's fashion sense because it's a little more set in a more contemporary time period, but she makes fun of Malachi being like most of his shirts would look at home on the cover of a historical romance novel. And I was like, oh, I see what you did there, Katie. I like that.
I liked that
I
too.
laughed out
I
loud.
liked that too. And and while it's not like obviously set centuries past, I in reading the book, outside of just a couple of mentions of modern conveniences, this book could take place at any time. Like, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it reflects that these vampires are so old and that like the
Yeah.
history spans centuries because it doesn't feel like this is taking place in super modern current times or anything, which I respected. I liked that she kept things a little bit more ambiguous so that like
Mm-hmm.
it didn't feel dated or in any way tied to a specific year.
I agree. And it's so clear with the way that these vampire colonies, which I like, do they call them colonies because of bats? I don't know. But the
That's
way
a
that
really
these
good point.
Right? I'm like, why are they using that word? Because it makes me think of bugs, not bats. And I was like, I don't enjoy that you're calling them colonies, but I guess that is what people say when they're
Even
talking
that's
about
so
vampires.
antiquated though. Like I kind of also
Mm-hmm.
respect that because it does feel old timey, you know?
Yeah, it's like all of their politics, the way they interact, the way that, like Mina and just her father's other daughters or just other women are just, they kind of have like less rights. It's very much like it
Mm-hmm.
feels like it would be something that is happening two
Mm-hmm.
centuries in the past. But
Absolutely.
then there's like, yeah. So I thought I agree. I really liked that part that it was a little more ambiguous, and it makes sense that they wouldn't also bring all of their kind of societal constructs into the modern age because they have all these old school powers. It's just they're
For
in a very
sure.
different world.
Mm-hmm. Totally
Um,
agree. Can we talk about the fact? Okay, setting the stage here. We have our sweet lover boy Malachi who pulls Mina aside and is telling her his dreams and wishes. And this sweet, sweet man just wants a normal, loving family.
he
And then
does.
she proceeds to kind of blow that up by allowing certain liberties with all of the other vampires that would make it very difficult to determine the paternity of any said child that came from
Oh
these
my God.
unions.
We've got a vampire Mamma Mia situation going on.
Yes.
Who's
Yes,
the
it's
daddy?
vampire Mamma
We
Mia.
don't know.
Yes,
Oh my
1,000%. It is
God.
a Mamma Mia situation. I I mean, first of all, the girl got pregnant very fast. She's clearly very, very fertile. Um, Good on her. Second, like, I mean, I know that Malachi said to Mina that he didn't really care if it was necessarily his child. He just wanted that family unit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But knowing his wishes, like Mina, couldn't you have just threw him that bone? Like,
I
was
know.
that
I
that
know. You
difficult?
would think. I know. Yeah, he definitely had like kind of protective, a little bit of ownership vibes from the very
Mm-hmm.
beginning. He was like, Mina's mine, would almost like go to war with Wolf in the beginning when he was kind of like Wolf gets introduced in the very beginning and he's kind of threatening Mina of like, I'm just gonna enjoy her and then we're gonna she's done. And Malachi's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, not on my watch, she's mine. I'm gonna protect her forever. And then he does the same thing
Mm-hmm.
again with Ryland. And so yeah, like just I mean, she is only 24, but she going back to just being like, yeah, I can let all three of you do whatever. I'm not going to be dedicated to just Malachi. Poor guy,
I
He's just a
know, I
lover.
know. Well, and like at the end of the day, when they all come together, it's very clear that Malachi he's bought it. Like he loves Wolf and Rylan too. But I think that Katie makes a very clear point that even though he does have love for them, it's a very different sort of love. And like that's a point of
Mm-hmm.
contention between Rylan and
Mm-hmm.
Mina because Rylan is jealous of Mina. This man has been in love with
Mm-hmm.
Malachi for hundreds of years. And now this girl walks in
God, I
and
know.
throws a
Wolf
wrench.
takes to Mina so much faster, but yeah, Rylan, like, it takes a while to get him to come around.
Yeah.
But yeah, everybody loves Malachi, he's the sweetie.
Yeah.
He's the
Agreed.
sweetie.
If I had to, well, let me ask you this. If you had to pick between Rylan, Wolf, and Malachi, knowing what you know, knowing their
Oh my God.
powers, and you could only pick one, which one would you pick?
Okay, so like I love love, and so part of me is like, I want a lover boy, but I really loved Wolf's chaotic punk energy. And like I kind of loved his arrogance. Like I think there was a line in the beginning where Mina's like, she tells him that he's really, really pretty, and he goes, I know. And I just like I kind of find that amusing. Maybe I would live to regret it, but I think I would choose Wolf. Also, he has this power to like manipulate your blood, right? And like that,
Yeah. I mean, he pulls
that
that
has like
in.
that's like some enjoyable that can be make things a little more
Yeah.
enjoyable. I I enjoyed that. That seems cooler than Malachi's firepower, but I don't know. Which one would you choose?
So this is hard for me because I also love and I love the emotional intimacy that Malachi is giving off. But there's something about the coldness of Rylan that the high school girl in me that lives on would just want to work her hardest to change.
Mm-hmm. Are we
I
toxic? I think we might be.
Yeah, absolutely,
Are we toxic?
1000%. But I think that I'd find a challenge in Rylan in terms of like him getting him to
Mm.
open up and like trust me and me be that person for him and he'll change. I know he'll change. Yeah, that seems likely the direction I'd go in,
I could see that
unfortunately.
for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think yeah, you'd want to win that conquest and gain his
Yeah.
approval and everlasting love.
Yeah. Yeah. We're very toxic, but it is what it is.
I know. Um, I also will say, as we like get towards the end, I feel like, and this is like going all the way to the end, definitely a big
Mhm.
spoiler, but I
Sure.
feel like Mina killing her father was way too easy. Like there was all this buildup for
Yes.
3 books, of like how like they slowly crescendo to this plan where if she can kill her father Cornelius and like she can take over and that's the only thing that'll be able to keep all of them safe. They won't have to continue running. They can actually just like live out their Mamma Mia family life.
Mhm.
And then it all just happened so quickly. And I don't know. I had thoughts about that. I was like, man, I wish there was like more of a battle or something.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up because I meant to put that in my Fable notes. I felt the exact same way. Like we have been building up for 2.5 books by this point. You know what this scene is going to mean to Mina's future, to the men's future, to the future of this vampire colony. And we've also
To her
built up
unborn
how
baby.
right, to her unborn baby. We've also built up how difficult it's going to be to kill her father. And then for it to happen in literally a matter of like 2 pages, I was like, did I did I miss something here? Did I skip a chapter on accident?
I know.
Like
I
what
was like, oh,
happened?
is there something else coming? Is everybody else gonna like fight them? And then no, they all just accepted Mina as their queen, and then it was
Yeah.
happily ever after.
I was
So,
I was kind of I was expecting more. It wasn't necessarily bad, but I
mhm.
just wanted a
Yeah.
little bit more fight out of that. Like I also wouldn't have minded
Mm.
if, her dad has her in like a really tough situation. She's losing the fight and then like gets strength or something at the end and pulls through.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just expected more out of that scene.
I agree. I feel like we both kind of know what the answer would be, but I think that's what I would change if I could change one thing about this book. I would have drawn out that scene, made it more complex, had our 3 lovers play more of a role in it or something about it. But I don't know, was there
Hmm.
anything else in the book that you would change if you could?
This is going to sound very silly, but
Love.
I couldn't get past Wolf and his mohawk.
Really? Oh
I
my
didn't
God.
want him to have one. I just like I just I just couldn't get
Okay,
down
so
with it.
not into the punk alt core. Okay.
I mean it's just a personal preference, right? But like I just wished that he didn't have a mohawk. That was simply it. Honest to God, I don't think that I'd change much about this book. I really did enjoy it. I would say no mohawk for Wolf and a longer um conclusional scene with Cornelius and with Mina. Um, but
Yeah.
I still loved the ending. I still was really happy
Yeah.
with it. I loved that we got a glimpse into their life post this big fight and Mina becoming the vampire queen. So, I mean, all in all, I didn't expect it to, but this book checked a lot of boxes for me, more than it didn't.
Yeah, I would agree. I would recommend it. I I think, yeah, I have one other favorite moment at the very end when you kind of get a glimpse of their happily ever after. And they
Uh-huh.
have this little kid named Asher, and I literally laughed out loud when I got to the point where like w- either me, I don't remember if it's Mina or Malachi kind of swears and they say fuck, and then Asher just starts shouting fuck, fuck, fuck over and over and over. And I laughed out loud at that part. I was like, wow, that's like such a child moment.
It really is. I did appreciate that too. I thought that that was cute. Yeah, all in all, I really liked this. Now, question for you, Mary, since we're getting to like the end of our time
Mhm.
here, are you planning to read the next book series, if you will, that takes place in the underworld?
I love the underworld. So, yes, it is on my list. Yeah, absolutely. Are you?
I actually think I might. I'm very intrigued by the demon, and his name is escaping me at this particular moment, but it's a complicated
I know.
name,
Is it
and now I can't remember
Azrael?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but I'm intrigued by him, and I am also intrigued by the backstory with why that woman's mother gave her soul to the devil and went down
Mm-hmm.
there um
Mm-hmm.
to serve time. I mean, like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed the plot of this book. I would definitely read more from Katee. I think her books are fun in that with the fantastical aspect of it all, it just takes you into a different world. And I love books that do that. I truly do.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a very colorful world. I will say, I know we kind of said it in the beginning, but this book was filthy. Expecting that her other books are also going to be filthy. So I probably need to kind of balance it out before I read another book by her. But y'all,
Same.
I feel like there were less chapters, if any, maybe in book three, where there wasn't a spice scene. It was almost nonstop. So when I say I think this
Yes.
is like a 5 out of 5 spice level, it is like, it's really more like a 7. Um, but our
It's more
rating to
like a
scale doesn't go up that
15, but
high.
like we don't count up to 15.
It is very spicy. This is a very spicy book. So just keep that in mind. But I'm absolutely planning to read the Underworld book. And I liked it. I would recommend this book to everybody.
Would absolutely recommend. I would definitely like forewarn folks what to expect out of the read, but I do think it was great. I definitely will read the demon book as well.
Awesome. Well, I want to hand it over to you because I know you are talking about Three Chances to Cherish next week. Do you want to give us a little
Yes.
teaser of what to expect?
I would love to. So I'm going to apologize to listeners in advance because I selfishly chose this book because I've been looking forward to this new release. It's Three Chances to Cherish by Grace Calloway. It is one of her newest releases, just came out in January. It is technically, it's the third book in her newest series. However, it's kind of the fourth book that has been written about this particular Blackwood family, but it's a super sweet second chance romance story. It's a marriage in trouble, and we get to see these very deeply feeling characters learn to be honest with one another and find their way back to one another. So it's really, really, really sweet if you're into that. I'll also say this one, while not overly crazy on the spice, is a spicier read. Grace Calloway is notorious
Mm-hmm.
for more of a steamy historical romance read. This one is historical romance. It takes place in the Victorian era, but it's really sweet. It's a great love story. It brings in a little bit of the supernatural too in this curse of Bloody Tom that we'll get into
Mm-hmm.
next week.
Yeah.
But if you're into any of that, you want to see a great story about two people coming back together and really rebuilding a marriage. It's a really great book. I can't recommend it enough.
I'm so excited to read and talk about it. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Historic Hearts Club. If you haven't already, join the Historic Hearts Club book club on the Fable app for even more hot takes on your favorite books. We've definitely got some fun things I'd love to discuss with you all. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and follow Historic Hearts Club on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and X for updates, book recs, teasers, and more. Lastly, sound off in the comments with what you think should be our next read. Until next time.